So you can imagine there's in the underworld this part of him going, please don't do this. You know what the consequences will be. You will die. And I'm here to keep you safe. So, you know, this little kind of, almost like a little gremlin down in the underworld trying to keep him safe. And this contract that said, you must not speak your truth. You must not give away the secret. You must not do this. Otherwise you will die. And and we did a whole soul retrieval. He got back the grace. He got the gift, which was a beautiful book with symbols in it, and a new contract that spoke of standing in his power. And now everything's changed. He's never been busier. He just keeps stepping in and stepping in and stepping in. So this is, his destiny for doing what he came to do had been derailed by that old story that lived in every cell in his body. And just by reclaiming that part of himself, his life has taken on a whole new momentum, and he's doing what he came to do.
How does somebody know they've got soul loss? Or is it a case that if you're alive in the Western world, you can be sure you've got it?
It's almost like you can be sure. If you're alive in the Western world, and your life is not full of abundance and love and magnificence, and you can be sure that somewhere you will have had some kind of soul loss. We have big soul losses, cultural soul loss. I'm very aware of just a week ago seeing the trauma in New York over that plane that flew low over those buildings in New York, that there is a whole town that experienced soul loss on September the 11th. And what it does is create an imprint in the luminous energy field. And that imprint then draws to it. It almost lines up life to bring you the very thing that you need to heal that imprint. And so it's going to keep repeating it. If you have repeating patterns, if you have things that really make you fearful, it's like a return of the same old thing, then you have soul loss. If you're trying to live your life and things keep getting in the way, it's like banging your head on a brick wall always. You have soul loss. That there's something that has derailed your destiny. Alberto always says that we can either live fate, let fate lead our lives, or we can live our destiny. If fate is living your life, then there come a point where you turn around and go, whose life is this I'm living?
Right.
Whose life is this? There's something missing. And inevitably, if we have lived in the Western world with all the things that have happened to us, I'm just thinking about the feminine, for example, going back to earlier when we were talking about the feminine and how that had been suppressed. Throughout the Middle Ages, there were millions and millions of women who were labeled witches or wicked or burned at the stake or, horrifically killed because they were women. And so that's a big soul loss piece for the feminine. And we're kind of suffering from that now, really. If you think that where we are now in the world, that feminine energy has been missing for quite some time. It's ready to come back, but we need to reclaim it for ourselves in order to bring it back.
Yeah, that's a big one, I think. Well, I've got a question here from Sarah in Brighton. She says, I understand that when you experience a trauma, a part of your soul leaves. How do you know when all the parts have been returned to a person?
Okay, so you can go down into the underworld and keep reclaiming more and more pieces in order that your life lines up to be what you want it to be, what you came to be. And if your life's not working, then you do another soul retrieval piece. But it's almost as if your life is really on track, all the lights are green, everything that you do, the universe lines up, you're in alignment with the universe itself, then you know your life is, there's nothing more to reclaim. My sense is that it takes a long time to get to that stage. You know, I've done soul retrieval, I teach soul retrieval, and I still have pieces that I'm wanting to reclaim. How do you know? You know because your life is in alignment.
Well, I've got to tell you an experience I had some years ago, Chris. When I did the training, I got so excited, and I actually sat in this kind of meditation, and I got the idea that I could probably call back many pieces all at once, and I got this sort of idea of doing it. And I remember calling back like dozens and dozens of them from a traumatic period in my life, and I felt them coming back, coming to my body. After that, I had a very wobbly time because I think I'd overdone it, and I got all the memory of what had happened, you know? It's almost like I've heard that before, that you bring the soul back, and what's coming back is the part of you that actually remembers what went on as well. It's an integration part and a healing of that.
That's why we go to the Chamber of Grace, Steve, and we ask for the original wound, because the original wound, it's almost like the big umbrella that will hold many of the other wounds that came after it. If you go for the original wound, you're getting version 1, and that will collect up all the other versions along the way. But you don't want to bring back the wounded part because that's the trauma. And that will create wobbliness because you're bringing back the memory of the trauma and not the grace. So you want to, first of all, when you go down in the underworld, we always ask to our guide, can you show me the original version of this wound for my client? So that's the first thing. And secondly, you only go and bring the grace back because that's the piece that splintered off before the wounding happened. And so it's the grace that's really important. And the grace will set your life in order, actually. You will have to change things. You may have to change 98% of your life in order to have that soul part back. I mean, it doesn't have to be that much, but it could be that much. Especially if you've been given a diagnosis that, it's this or death, then you're going to change 98% of your life by bringing that soul part back. But the thing is, you only want the grace, you don't want the wound. The wound will wobble you, as you've discovered. What the grace will do is help you set your life in order. And that's the point of it, really, to set your life in order. But an order that you want, that you want to enjoy, and not one that has been given to you, or, I used to live my life from, whatever. Whatever.
Yeah.
And so my life's not like that now.
This webinar, you've got the opportunity to send a question through the web page. One or two people have done that. Now, I've got another question for you, Chris. You've probably dealt with hundreds of clients of soul retrieval. Can you give some examples of different types of experiences people go through afterwards? What happens as they recover, or these parts are returned to them? Okay, so
let me give you. Well, the first thing is that when the work has been done energetically, it's the piece that you bring back is blown into the energy field of the client, and instantly that energy begins to work to overwrite the old stories, to change the energy field of the client. And the imprint of that original wound is also dealt with through illumination. So the healing that takes place is instantaneous. But what happens is that in order to bring it down through the levels, as shaman, we work with 4 levels of engagement. The work takes place at the energetic. Our job then as a shaman is to remap it at the mythic level, to make that the story that client goes away with a lot more compelling than the original story that they came in with. So we remap their life at the mythic level, and I'll talk to you a little bit about that in a moment.